Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining. I know I have not made a video in a little while, you know, with everything going on at work. And of course, me and my wife buying a new house. It has been extremely busy, so I have not made any videos. But today's the day we're making one. So me and my wife did finally close on our new home, which is essentially like a construction loan. And we're just gonna be going through that whole process next, right? Getting the lot cleared, getting the home set up. Anyways, today's video is going to be about maintenance. And what type of maintenance am I talking about? You know, I've kind of neglected my PC a bit here. And what I mean by that is I'm just going to check the liquid metal. And I'm going to check that on the direct eye. And this is something that just kind of comes with the territory, right? After maybe, 2 months, 3 months, maybe even a month goes by, you may run Cinebench and your system freezes, or you run a stress test, your system freezes. And what happens there is not degradation, but it's the thermal transfer. How fast that heat is transferring into your cold plate where your cooling system can dissipate that heat off, okay? So if your liquid metal dries up after a while, that's the first telltale sign right there. A lot of people I see on the forums, and this is the biggest mistake I see all the time. Someone will be like, hey, I'm running an overclock. All of a sudden, I can't run it anymore. My system's not stable. What's going on? I'm running direct eye. Check your mount. Check your mount, check your mount, check your mount. 99% certain that is the problem. If that chip could run that overclock before, more than likely it can still do it. So, of course, there is degradation, but a lot of that happens in the very beginning life of a CPU. For example, you can take a brand new CPU, put it in a computer, get a feel for it, see how good it is, and you'll see it kind of loses that edge, like within a day, and it'll stay that way. People will call that like burn-in, things like that. So if you are running direct eye, you do need to make sure your liquid metal application is good. You're gonna need a few things. Number one, gotta have that Flitz polish. And number two, of course, more than likely, you're gonna need a piece of sandpaper. This is just a piece of 600 grit. I might get a piece of 1000 grit, honestly, or just scuff this up a little bit. So we're gonna check our direct eye mount, and also you will need some paper towels, right, for your super cool direct eye. First things first, we're gonna go ahead and turn off the power supply. We're gonna make sure we hit the power on the power supply. We're gonna pull our quick disconnects. These things are the best. They make life much easier. And we're gonna move this guy out of the way. We'll tuck him in right there. So, this coolant is quite old. This is like distilled water with a little bit of additive. So I'm kind of curious to see if my cold plate is dirty, right? Like that's something else that can happen. Your super cool will get clogged up. The fans will get clogged up. May have some debris. If you're running the EKWB commercial black lines, those solid black rubber tubes, there is like a plasticizer that comes off of those on the inside. It almost looks like fur, if you take a new pipe and look at it. So we're gonna get a good look at this guy today. We're gonna see how it's held up of running essentially every day of just, constant usage, right? We're gonna see how it looks, how the cold plate looks, how the liquid metal looks. First things first, I gotta get a paper towel. All right, so got a paper towel ready here, and you're gonna wanna wrap these around the base of that fitting. And also you're gonna wanna kind of put one in that bottom area. You don't want water running down in here. Trust me, I've had it happen. I've had it happen to a computer. I flooded this motherboard a couple times. There is a coating on this motherboard. Not many people know. There is a factory coating on this motherboard, and this computer ran perfectly fine completely flooded in water. And if I hadn't have looked, I wouldn't have known. But of course, we don't want that to happen. Distilled water also isn't exactly conductive, but it becomes conductive slowly after over a certain period of time. Touching metals, it slowly becomes conductive. The dirtier your water gets. So, yeah. So with my last video card, I remember I had cleaned the block, taken it apart, put it back together, and it had a leak. And man, I tell you, it literally poured water all in the PCI Express slot, the memory slots, the CPU, everything. So that is the worst, because then you have to tear apart your entire computer, everything. You mean all these heat sinks, all of that stuff on your motherboard, and make sure it's dry before you can use it again. And it's kind of interesting seeing the computer run while it's covered in water. And when this happened, I had my test bench set up where it was flat. So the water was just literally chilling on the motherboard, and the computer was working like nothing was wrong. But just make sure that you do, tuck some paper towels in to a few areas just to keep that water from seeping out, okay? Next thing we're gonna do is, wow, those motherboard heat sinks are sharp, aren't they? Look at that. Right there. It'll get you. Already bleeding. All right, so we're gonna loosen up those fittings. All right, that's loose enough. That thing stabbed me. They are sharp. Anybody ever cut themselves on the Apex heatsink? Comment down below, because it is definitely sharp. All right, we're gonna loosen up this first guy here. And it will, water's gonna dump right out and soak up in that paper towel. You wanna just kind of flip your quick release over, kind of absorb any moisture there. Then we're gonna take our paper towel and try to absorb any water. We're just gonna put that thing right in there. Over here bleeding. Look at that. Thing got me. It got me. All right, we're gonna keep going. Liquid metal always degrades faster than thermal paste. That is one thing I've learned. All right, we're gonna go ahead and pull the other fitting off here. You want to make sure this thing is completely dry inside for the most part before you take it off. Otherwise, it's going to dump water all over your CPU, and then you're going to have to clean your socket out. This is just one of the inconveniences with the Super Cool, but this is not something you have to do often. But welcome to the game of enthusiasts and performance. This is how it works, right? Someone builds a racing engine for a race car at the drag strip or racetrack. They might blow it up and have to take it apart again. Or they may race it and hear a noise, it's knocking, it's pinging, whatever, and they're pulling it apart again. So this is just part of it, right? Of course, you can leave it and always maintain an acceptable level of temperatures, which will always be good, but I like them to be perfect, right? As good as they can be. So we want that contact to be really good. The main thing that causes liquid metal to dry out is when there is a surface and it's not perfectly flat. That is the biggest cause of that. That's the main issue. Okay, we're gonna go in on this side. We're gonna make sure it's good before we pull the cover off. And so far, I don't see anything on my actual cold plate. I don't see any clogging or anything like that. So that's good. It's always good. Make sure we get up any water. Put a little bit of paper towels around it. And we'll go ahead and pop off the cover. And you're gonna want a leak tester. This one here is a Barrow leak tester right here, just to give you a quick look. And these are fairly affordable. If you do get one of these Barrow leak testers, make sure that you unscrew all of the fittings, or before assembling it, use some O-ring grease, right? I've heard of people saying they leak from the factory. They leak out of the box and they think it's their system, but it's the leak tester leaking. And I never had that issue. I read those reviews before I even used mine. So as soon as I got it, I put a little O-ring grease on every connection there was on the actual system, and it never gave me any trouble. All right, our little handy dandy long Allen key. We're gonna go ahead and loosen this guy up. It's been on here for a while. And for the longest time, I used to put these in and I never leak tested until I had a leak one time. And the leak was caused by a CPU that had a tiny bit of crazy glue from the previous owner, and that CA glue was lifting the actual IHS and causing it to not have a perfect mount. Just go through and make sure this clicks all around. And we're gonna get our paper towel ready and slowly lift this guy off of here. And there we go. So as you can see, we've got no water anywhere, got a little bit of debris on there, but nothing, literally, barely nothing. You can zoom in right there and see that that is a little tiny piece of old rubber, looks like, from one of the old black EK lines I used to use. That things break down after a few years, so I don't use them anymore. I don't know why, but every time I would take this top off, which a different one, but in a different CPU, and I had the EK commercial tubing, it would just, this would be covered, it would clog, it would slowly clog, and you see these little black pieces of rubber, and you know, but this isn't bad, that's nothing. So, but right now we're just making sure we get all that water up, and we're gonna lift that CPU off. Honestly, I didn't even check my temps on this thing. It's been so long, I don't even have a baseline anymore. I'm just like, you know what? Let me pull this thing down and give it a check. Make sure it's good. And sometimes you'll get some water around the CPU. Just stick a paper towel in there, you know, you're not gonna break nothing. Just make sure there's no moisture, right? I can feel this paper towel is damp down at the bottom. So there was water that was hitting it. Make sure everything is nice and dry. The worst place for any drop of water to be is around your memory. Your system memory, I'm telling you. You can have the tiniest amount of moisture around your DIMM slots and the system won't even post XMP. Ask me how I know. Get my system too cold, and that's what happens. That is exactly what happens. So that's what it looks like. We're gonna go ahead and lift up our latch here. Go ahead and lift that guy up. And we're gonna lift our whole CPU out of there, just like that. And there's our socket. And there we go. Don't drop your CPU on the socket. I've never done that, but I think I've done something similar on another motherboard I didn't care about. Anyways, so next up here is gonna be actually maintaining our liquid metal. So we're gonna move the camera and we're gonna take a look here at the actual contact of how this CPU is looking, how it's looking, what it's looking like. And don't forget to dump the water out of your quick release fittings here, because they do have water in them. You gotta screw them down. You're gonna pour water on your CPU. All right, we'll set those aside there. Let me tighten up my mount here. There we go. All right, so I'll put the CPU right there. Careful sitting your CPU down. You do have a lot of small components on the bottom. All right, there we go. So we're going to go ahead and move this guy around. Wow, it's really stuck on there. That's crazy. Look at that. It's look at that. I'm holding it upside down and it's just stuck to it. That's interesting. I've never seen that. Oh, there we go. Just a little, hey, ooh, that's messy. See, look at that. You can tell I'm running an angled test bench because look, we've got all the liquid metal on one side and it all drained out. But that's okay, because we're gonna get all this off of here and we're gonna do a fresh application, make sure it's good to go. So first things first, we're gonna get some alcohol and we're gonna clean up both of these surfaces. All right, so this is the best I got. This is what we're gonna use, okay? So, one little thing to kind of keep liquid metal in its spot so it doesn't paint your surface. You can go at this with a dry paper towel, but it's gonna paint the whole top of the CPU silver. So a little trick is to, oh, what just happened there? There we go, okay, I lost focus completely. All right, is get it cold. Just put a little alcohol on the CPU, just like that. And now the CPU, the liquid metal, will more or less roll off of there. So it'll be a little easier versus, you know, I could actually blow this off. I could just be like, and it would, most of it would blow right off. It's really cold. Take my finger here and just brush this right off of there. Just like that. Feels wonderful. A little alcohol in your cut. Should disinfect it nicely. Oh yeah, that does not feel good. All right, there we go. I thought my CPU was acting a little funny, and I think it's that I've seen liquid metal sitting on the substrate cause some funny problems. And of course, make sure there's none on the bottom, because you don't want to dissolve any of these small little, you know, capacitors. And I literally just blew it, and there we go. We got just about everything off. I want to give it one little once over here. With a little alcohol. And this is going to help tremendously. Might even switch my test bench back to the flat position, because as you can see, it looks like, you know, that spot there, all of the liquid metal was there. So that's not good. You know, that's not great. Of course, the temperatures were phenomenal. I mean, they were great either way, but you know, they're not as good as they should have been. This is my R batch 14900 KF. This is the SP107. This one's a PSP117 ESP88. The MCESP on my latest BIOS is like 91, 92. It's a pretty good CPU here, really good. All right, next thing we're gonna clean up here is the actual IHS itself. A lot of this liquid metal you can reuse if you want to, if you're in a pinch. Take a little syringe, you can suck that all right up, okay? Especially if it's on a clean surface, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Which I might just do that just to save myself the cleanup from some of it. So we're gonna take a look here. That one's unopened. There we go. This one's been opened. This is the liquid metal I'm using. Works just as good as any if you're curious, and it's a lot cheaper, okay, than going and buying some, you know, Thermal Grizzly stuff. This stuff was like $10. I think I got it for $5 actually. So, but I keep this stuff on hand. You never know when you're gonna need it. You never know when you're gonna need it. And that day is gonna come when your application needs to be redone. So biggest tip here with these syringes is give them a little tap, roll it around, okay? And put that plunger all the way to the top, being careful not to shoot liquid metal out. Slowly. All right, and these are cool too because the tip is actually plastic, so it won't scratch your CPU die or your IHS when you're over there trying to get it back up. So I thought that was pretty interesting that they used a plastic tip. It looks metal, but this is plastic. It's a clear plastic tube. So we're gonna just go ahead and lift this stuff right up. There we go. Got a good amount of it. All right, we're gonna hit that one more time here. And there we go. So we got a good amount of that lifted off of there. And we're gonna just put a little bit of alcohol on here and we're going to wipe most of this up. I know it may seem kind of confusing or difficult if you're trying to apply liquid metal the first time, but you just want to get as much as you can up. It's going to look messy after you're done, but I promise you I'll show you how to do this right. Okay, just make sure there's no actual pieces left. All right, now I'm literally gonna take this to the kitchen sink with some soap and a toothbrush and wash it really quickly, okay? I'll be right back. All right, that was it. You're probably wondering, why are we washing this at the kitchen sink? Well, first things first, the important thing about washing this is you want to make sure that you get anything out of the cold plate, right? We got water flowing through these passages. You wanna make sure they're clean. Take a toothbrush, soap and water, clean them. Next is the O-ring seal around this entire edge, right? This is where our O-ring goes from the plastic top of our Super Cool, okay? You do get a random little bit of buildup there sometimes from the O-ring pressing against it for so long. You wanna make sure it is clean. There's nothing there. So toothbrush, Dawn dish soap, roll with it, nothing fancy. Next up is preparation of the bottom of this plate here, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're actually gonna take some some Flitz polish, okay? And this is a polishing compound. It's literally meant for polishing metal. So we're gonna take this stuff here. And the first time I got this stuff, I didn't know what to do with it, okay? That was years ago. So you take your Flitz polish, you can just put a little bit right on the surface. Just dab it on there like that, okay? We're gonna let it set for a second here. I'm gonna dab it around a little bit. And we're gonna let that rest. Just like that. All right, you can already kind of see the blackness coming off of it. This is gonna help clean that metal surface and get it ready for a nice clean finish, clean metal finish, right? For a fresh liquid metal application, okay? Alrighty, next up is just a dish rag, okay? This is just a damp dish rag. Got this damp from the sink here. We're gonna use a little elbow grease, some Flitz polish. We're gonna put a little bit on the tip. I got my finger there just like that. And we're gonna go to work on this thing, okay? And what it's gonna do is it's gonna lift out all that liquid metal in preparation for the new application, okay? So here we go. We're gonna go in circles here. You'll be able to feel that surface. You can already see how black this is, right? It's just pulling it right out of there. Sometimes you really gotta get your nail on there and scrub the heck out of this thing. This IHS has been used many times. So my nickel finish is long gone. My nickel plating. And sometimes with liquid metal, you will have a surface that is just, it's too hard. So you might have to use sandpaper, okay? Sometimes you have to do that. All right, let's clean up some of this here. And take a look. All right, so you can see that is got a lot. Look at that surface. It's just completely disrupted. Look at that. You see how unsmooth that is? We've polished it a little bit, but it's just, that's not good. You've got a lot on the surface there. It really needs to come off, okay? Hey everybody, thumbs up. All right, so yeah, that's not a very good reflection, as you can see. You can barely see me. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a small piece of sandpaper here, just like this, just ripped off a strip. We're gonna we're gonna smooth this puppy out again a little bit, okay? You wanna go very easy because you wanna try to preserve your nickel finish on there, okay? You wanna try to preserve that as much as possible. Let me get the sandpaper wet. All right. Okay, so nothing, not a lot of pressure, okay? We just wanna get off that heavy stuff, okay? Not a ton of pressure. We just want to make this guy kind of uniform again. Make sure you kind of rotate it around. Move this way. You can move in circles. It really doesn't matter. You know, this doesn't even have to be a mirror smooth finish. You just need to make sure the surface is relatively flat. You can't have heavy hills in it or anything like that, okay? I'm gonna flip the sandpaper over here. See how that looks and feels. Took a lot of our nickel plating off, but that's okay. Make this a little smaller. I'm not even putting any pressure. I've done this a gazillion times on this exact cold plate. Okay, let's do this corner here. We can kind of see where that dye was sitting. All right, and this side, and here we go. Okay, so that looks good. Yep, that looks good. All right, now we're gonna wipe this thing down real quick. Got a little bit of copper showing, but I really don't care about that. I just want it to be uniform. We've got one little spot right here. All right, good enough. No more massive like lumps or heels anymore. Does not have to be perfect. Does not have to be perfect, okay? Okay, next up, we're gonna do our polish one more time, okay? So, we're gonna put a little polish on the surface of this guy here. And we're gonna take our rag, and we're gonna go to town. Giving it a final polish. All right, now we're gonna wipe this off. We're gonna take our paper towel and we're gonna give this thing a quick once over with the paper towel. And there we go. That is much better, as you can see. We had a very lumpy surface to begin with. That is a gazillion times better. So you can see it's smooth again. Of course, you know, it doesn't matter how smooth it really is. If anything, liquid metal does like a rougher surface better. The main thing is, of course, making sure this is relatively flat, you know, and you don't want to put any pressure. You just want to kind of eat off that old liquid metal. You want to kind of get those pits and valleys. It kind of really pits the nickel plating. And you got to eat that off. And this is probably maybe the third, maybe the fourth time I've done it with this one. Yeah, about the fourth time. So last time I used 1000 grit, and you can save that nickel coating a little bit, but it you know, it gets in there after a while, and you know, there's not but so much you can do. So now that this is prepped and ready to go, we're going to actually hit this again with the Dawn soap and toothbrush. I'm gonna go through and do one more quick little polish. You gotta make sure you get off any of that residue from the Flitz polish, or else your liquid metal will not spread and it will not stick, okay? Alrighty, I'm gonna take this and wash it. And we're gonna apply some liquid metal. All right, there you have it. That is the final piece to the puzzle here. We're gonna go ahead and dry this thing up and hit it with some alcohol and get it ready for liquid metal. I cannot tell you how many times I have done this, right? It's all about that CPU maintenance. If you do it right, it can last you a long time. So we're gonna go ahead and just, don't wipe the bottom of this too hard, because you can kind of, you know, if you wanted a more matte finish, you can. Just take your paper towel and do it just like that. And it will help capture that liquid metal when you're spreading it. It'll make it paint on easier because it's able to grab into those micro scratches, okay? And it'll help stick too. So I think I'm gonna actually give it a more of a matte finish. go. So I kind of hit it with the paper towel to scratch it a little bit. There, that's much better. And that'll help grab that liquid metal. But you can see there's no major lumps. There's nothing like that. None of that is there. It is ready. Blow the water off. All right, the last step, we're just gonna hit it with a little bit of alcohol. Okay, just a tiny amount, nothing crazy. And we are going to, just to make sure it's ready for that, that new liquid metal. Give it a quick, just blow it off real quick. Make sure there's no lint, fuzz, hair, whatever, residue. And we're gonna go ahead and throw some liquid metal on this bad boy. All right, so we'll take our syringe. And we're gonna put some right in the center. And this is really just to kind of get it ready. There we go. It should be enough. Go ahead and get us a Q-tip. See, I like how they lay this out for you. Get your 2 Q-tips in there. Everything you need. And this is very important for the IHS, okay? So essentially, you wanna make sure that you take this and just kinda run it around in a circle first. And you wanna just lightly paint where the die will be, okay? You wanna lightly paint where that die is gonna be. All right, I'll flip this around. I'll run this way. Just try to get it smooth. If it's bigger than the die, I mean, that's okay. Now we're gonna rub it in real good and make sure it's soaked in to that finish. You start to get a little bit of like liquid metal debris while you're doing this. It almost looks like dirt or dust. You can see how we're kind of coating this in. Look at that. I do like to go around and kind of clean those up, and I'll show you what I mean by that. I will go around and collect all of it. Just like that. And here we have a freshly painted liquid metal application ready for the die to touch. And we're gonna set this guy down for later use, because we're gonna set him over there. So we'll be coming back to our liquid metal very shortly. We have to get our CPU ready. All right. Now with the CPU, it's pretty much the same process, except we're not gonna be using sandpaper. You can, but you don't really need to. We're just gonna be using Flitz polish, okay? We're gonna take a paper towel. We'll start with the paper towel. Should be strong enough to do the job. We're gonna get it a little damp. Put a little bit of Flitz polish on there, just like this. And then we're gonna polish that die, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and Give that CPU die a polish. We want it to be nice and clean. This one's got some stains on it. Some of these are really stubborn too. I can feel them with my nail. Might have to use a actual towel. You can see all that black stuff that has come off. So here's one concern. You can actually see where there's 2 dots on the die and they are not coming off. So I might have to actually take some 1000 grit. Let me grab a piece. All right, guys, so this is 1000 grit paper. We don't want to destroy our CPU. So we're gonna get this paper wet and we're gonna kind of wear it out a little bit. Okay? You just rub sandpaper with sandpaper. But we do want to go over and see if we can get these off the die, okay? We're just gonna lightly take our sandpaper here and we're gonna just hit this just a little bit. Circular motion. See if we can clean that up. You can actually feel it. All right, so I think that one's almost gone. We're gonna hit this one again real quick. You don't want 3-dimensional bumps on your CPU. So if that one is almost gone, it's flat anyways. We're gonna hit this other one. Okay, we got that one. Almost got it. Just lightly brushing it there. Okay. All right, now we're gonna go over it real lightly with our finger. With just sandpaper here, okay, just to make sure there's nothing else, just real light. Go the other way. I'm not really lapping it, I'm just trying to get it clean because it's being stubborn. It's got some dried liquid metal on there and we gotta get that off. All right, I believe that's it. I think that is pretty good. Those are some stubborn spots there, I tell you. That was those were very stubborn. Usually you don't get that. Maybe it's this liquid metal. I don't know. All right, I'm gonna call that good. We're gonna wipe the die off real quick here and we're gonna take a look. Yeah, looks good. I can't feel it with my nail anymore, so that's good. We're gonna go ahead and flitz polish this again. Alcohol and liquid metal. All right, so a little more flitz polish. Not much. A little bit on a paper towel. We're gonna get the CPU a little wet there. And we're gonna polish it. All right, almost good. We're gonna polish the heck out of this thing. Isn't it looking good? Polish the edges too, you know. Yeah, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna get another paper towel here and clean this thing up. All right, there we go. Okay. Those spots turned into just darker spots, but they're smooth, and that's what's important. This is just random little stuff you run into, and that's just, you know, important. You got to remember, you don't want to put that thing back together with those hard spots on there like that. You want it to be a smooth die. The best way to feel, just with your finger. You can feel with your fingernail. It's not going to hurt it. You can just give it a run down. Make sure it's smooth. And, you know, those two spots there a moment ago were definitely not smooth. Okay, last step here on the CPU. A little dab of alcohol. We're going to clean this thing up, okay? I go cleaning around the edge of it. I always take my finger around the edge of the die, clean it up there too. And on the substrate, I'm trying to clean it as best as we can get it. All right, we got this bad boy ready for liquid metal. I also recommend, you know, cleaning the bottom a little bit before you put it in. Very important, just because the oils of our fingers, etc. You know, just give it a quick little wipe like this, and just run around the edge of it. Nothing crazy. Just make sure it's clean. All right, now we're gonna put some liquid metal on the CPU die itself. So here we go. And while we have this top off, we're gonna go ahead and dump our screws out. 4 screws. We're gonna put them in our pocket because we're gonna be using them momentarily, putting this guy back together. We'll check our O-ring. If you see any debris on it, make sure you get it off, okay? But typically, you don't have to mess with this. I don't see any debris on my O-ring at all. It looks spotless. No cuts, nothing like that. It's good. All right, here we go. We're gonna go ahead and put a little bit of liquid metal. Now in this case, we're gonna go syringe to CPU. BB on there. And we're gonna take this guy and we're gonna make it flat, okay? Just like this. Oh, my phone just acted a little crazy again with the focus. Here we go. We're gonna put this liquid metal on the die. You want to make sure you cover the entire die. You don't want any bald spots or anything like that. All right. And by all means, take your time. It's not a race. Unless you want it to be, just make sure it's all in there really good. Give it a little rub around. You can flip the CPU around and make sure you hit the other side really good. We're gonna make sure that die, even the very leading edge, is painted, okay? That might be a little too much, but you know what? I'm getting used to this new liquid metal, I tell you. All right, our CPU is ready. You can see how that looks. That's our liquid metal. Got a pretty good amount on there, but that's okay. And we're gonna check our other mating surface here. This one's nice and flat looking. It is gonna be ready. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and lay this guy on our CPU. Let me put these Q-tips away here. Nothing special, honestly. I'm just throwing it in there. Then we're gonna take our liquid metal, put it back in there, pull the plunger out a little bit so you don't accidentally use it when you don't want to. Put your liquid metal away, okay? All right, next thing up, we're gonna go ahead and mount our CPU IHS, well, the super cool IHS, on top of where, you know, our CPU. Now remember, there's the little cutout there. That guy always goes where the little 4 little caps, SMDs go, right there, okay? So, let me get that guy in view. All right, there we go. So you got your 4 little SMDs right there. And then of course you have your little cutaway here at the top. So the CPU is gonna go, this is going to lay just like that, okay? Now, I actually placed the CPU in first and then mount the IHS. And we're gonna do that right now. So we're gonna move the camera back over here. All right. We're gonna okay, there's our CPU. Best way to tell your CPU's in, give it a little rock. Okay, just like so. Now you're gonna take your IHS here, and we are going to lay this guy right down where he's supposed to go. Okay. Now we gotta be careful here because we wanna make sure we get it straight as we can. And you can usually get this right on the first go, but you really don't want to move the CPU too much. You want to make sure it's even on both sides. You want to make sure it looks straight. Take a look at that edge, take a look at this edge, and most importantly, watch your SMDs at the bottom. You don't want to plow those guys off down there. You see how close they are down here in this very bottom area here. Look at that. They are close, okay? Very close. So with my IHS, I want to say it'll push right over them, but I'm going to give them a little bit of space just to be certain we're good here, okay? We're going to check the alignment because the alignment is critical. It may not look like much when you go to actually, we're gonna move him up just a little bit there. There we go. Okay, but when you go and mount your actual IHS for your super cool, it is very important, okay? Because if this is crooked, your IHS, your actual super cool top will be crooked, okay? So very important that we try to get this guy as straight as possible. And we're gonna put some pressure and we're gonna go ahead and latch this down just like so. Okay, so that is mounted. We didn't rip off our bottom SMDs. Got it on there. You wanna test fit your top, okay? Let's see, there's probably still a little water in this guy, but just, you know, of course, make sure that it's not going to drip on your computer, okay? I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a little test fit here. There we go. You can always check with this, make sure it's right. And sometimes, if you didn't know, your O-ring can mess up on you. So be careful with that. Always be careful, mindful of your O-ring. Got a little water on the CPU. I'm gonna dry up real quick. It came out of the top. I'm not cleaning the top because honestly it's pretty clean right now. It looks pretty good, I would say. All right. you can feel that squish when you go and wiggle it like that. That's always a good sign, of course. All right, we've got our screws. Got our Allen key handy here. We're gonna go ahead and drop in our first screws. Okay, and we're dropping in the second screw. Okay. All right, we're gonna press down in the center and just kind of lightly turn this one, and we're gonna hit that one too, just until they stop. Okay, no torquing, just until they stop. Now we're gonna drop in the other ones, and we're gonna drop the next one, and again, lightly torquing it, lightly torquing. Now we're gonna start putting a little tension on them, just barely turn them. Okay, you can feel it. Just until I do it until they all feel even. And we'll leak test it. You'll see that screws will become loose in other areas when you tighten it in certain areas. We're gonna go ahead and make sure it's nice and snug. And after adding fittings and pressing down the quick releases, you might even have to snug this guy again, but just don't go crazy. I just use 2 fingers and just give it a little snugness right there. That's it, nothing crazy. There is a trick to torquing these. That's laying the wrench sideways like this. You're gonna take your wrench. It's difficult to do with memory installed. You should be doing this with the motherboard out. Put your wrench in, press down on the wrench. Once you see the wrench starting to bend like that, see that little bend in the wrench? That's torqued, okay? Press a little bit. We're gonna give it one more little quick check. This is our CPU, okay? These are always moving. When you tighten one, the other one will get a little looser. So you gotta kind of go over them numerous times. That one just loosened up a little bit. That one didn't. Snug, 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 and snug. All right, that's good to go. Next up is our QD fittings. Go ahead and make sure we have all the water out of these so we don't pour water on our motherboard. All right. Next one. All right, we will go over these with a plier, just to snug them though, all right? Not anything crazy, guys, remember, just. Okay, now I'll do a little loosening test. I'm barely snugging those, okay? And last but not least, we are gonna roll with it. Probably not doing a leak test. I should, but I think it's probably fine, right? You know what? There's only one way to find out. Now, let me do a leak test. Hang on. Let me do one. I'll do it real quick. I actually forgot. You guys are probably like, what is this guy doing? All right, here we go. We're gonna do a quick leak test here real quick. We're gonna... All right, we got the leak tester in. Let's unscrew this guy here. we'll do half a bar. Tighten our thing up here, okay? And there we go. We're good to go. That quick release is sealed and our block is sealed, okay? Go ahead and let the air out here. Alrighty. Okay, guys, so leak test is done. You know, I felt confident there for a moment, and then I was like, you know what? It would suck if water ran everywhere and I had to take this whole thing apart again. And that was right when I was like, yep, nope, I'm good. So we're gonna go ahead and hook up our, well, we'll drop this on. Our little fancy LED guy, okay? Here's my tubes here. All right, we got that guy hooked up, and then let me take my, hook up our other one here. This one's a little harder. All right, now, here's the thing I want you to remember. When you do that, it does do little micro adjustments to your torque settings. Okay, you may go again and be like, whoa, why is everything loose? And you're pressing down that O-ring. So make sure you're checking this. Make sure you're triple checking it. Got one more here. They're all still snug. See, my O-ring's nice and mushed flat. But that's super cool maintenance, guys. That is the maintenance of the Super Cool. I know this was a quite long video, but you know, I wanted to get through it. Give you guys a good demonstration. And, you know, I hope it was helpful. I hope it, hey, keeps your CPU running cool. We're gonna watch this guy post. Code 55, code 31, code B6, there we go. So just be careful when you're cleaning up your CPU. Be very careful of that. Do not break your stuff, guys. Take your time, be very cautious, and you know, just please be very careful with this, okay? Use a leak tester. Make sure your surfaces are nice and flat and clean. And we're gonna hop into a freshly cleaned BIOS here, and we'll check some temperatures out, okay? And wow, this desk is a mess. I gotta clean this up. All right, so temperatures look really nice so far. CPU is 19 Celsius idle, so you can already see that that is working marvelously, okay? That's the end of this video. I hope this was helpful. If you guys have any questions or comments, please ask away, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.